Welcome dear creatives to another interesting tutorial. So in today's tutorial, we'll be learning how to draft a blazer jacket. We'll be starting with the back, right? So we'll draft the back first before we draft the front. To draft the back, we'll start by inserting a straight line here. As you can see, I'm using my ruler to get the straight line. So I've gotten the straight line. So from this straight line now, I'll start inserting all my measurements. The straight line will be serving as my shoulder line. So next, I'll be inserting my chest line. To get your chest line, you simply measure from the shoulder to the armhole, okay? So if you haven't taken that measurement on the body, what you need to do is to simply divide your bust circumference by 6, then add 1.5 to the measurement. So for my bust circumference, it is 36. 36 divided by 6 gives me 6, plus 1.5 gives me 7.5. Now note that the shoulder will be sloped by 1 inch. So I'm also adding back that 1 inch with which I'll be sloping my shoulder. So 36 divided by 6 is 6, plus 1.5 is 7.5, plus 1 inch for shoulder slope is 8.5. So that's what I'm simply marking. Okay, I hope that is gotten. So this will be, I'll connect the points now and get my chest line. So here we have our chest line. So next I'll be inserting, okay, I'm just trying to make the line straight. So after ensuring that the line is very straight, next I'll be inserting my shoulder to my bust point. For this measurement, you need to take it on your body, shoulder to your nipple point. For me, it is 10. So I'm simply marking 10 inches and also marking this way so that I can get a straight line by linking the 2 points. So here we also have our bust line. Next will be our waistline. Okay. Since this is not a contoured outfit, I'm not differentiating the front half length from the back half length. Normally, my front half length is 17 and my back is 15. So since it's a contoured outfit, I'm making both back and front to be 16. Okay. So I've done that. We have gotten our shoulder to half length, 16. I've marked it. Now to the full length. I do not want the jacket to be that long. Okay. I don't want it so long. So I'm simply marking 24. Okay, I'll make it 25. So I have marked. So here we are. We also have our hemline. So all our lines are now complete. The next thing we want to do is to insert our shoulder measurements on the shoulder line. So my shoulder is normally is 14 inches. Now 14 divided by 2 is 7. But I won't work with 14 here. I'll be working with 15. Since it's a jacket, you do not want to work with your exact shoulder measurements. Okay. You need to add at least 1 inch to the normal measurement of your shoulder. So since my shoulder width is 14 inches, I'll be adding 1 inch to make it 15. Therefore, I'll be marking out this jacket with 7.5. Okay, so I've marked out 7.5, which is 15. I'm also at the chest line now. I'm marking the same thing so I can link and get my armhole line. Okay, can you see? So it is on this line I'll be carving out my armhole. However, before we carve out the armhole, let's mark out our neck depth of 3 by 3. Okay, this is the back. So after inserting the neck width for the neck depth for the front 3, the neck width 3, we'll come and go back and insert for the back. The neck depth is 1 inch. Okay, so here I am carving out the neck width and neck depth of 3 by 3 for the front. Okay, we'll still use the same pattern to cut out the front. We'll transfer it to another pattern paper and draft our front. So I have marked out, carved out the front of 3 by 3. Now for the back, it will be 3 by 1. Okay, so I'm simply marking 3 by 1. So you can see, you can do 1.5 depending on your size, how big you are. Okay, so here is our back neckline. Now we have gotten both front and back neckline. So here is our front neckline. Let me just mark it out. So this is it for the front. Every other thing is the same except for the neck depth, the shoulder slants, and the armhole curve. So for the back, I have slanted the shoulder by 1 inch. Can you see? Okay, so that is it. I marked 1 inch from that armhole line down and then linked back to the neck point to get my shoulder slant. If you are used to your basic bodice pattern drafting, this will not be difficult for you. So the next thing I'm doing, I'm dividing our armhole line into 2. So trying to get the midpoint. After that, I'll go in by 1/2 inch, okay, to curve out my armhole for the back. I've also marked that. So I'll be curving it out. Before I curve it out, I will insert my bust circumference measurement divided by 4, which is 36 divided by 4 is 9. So I'm simply marking the 9 inches here. So after marking the 9 inches, I'll be linking it to this armhole point where I have marked 1/2 inch inwards like this and then straight to the slanted shoulder area. So we have our back armhole beautifully curved out. Next, we'll be inserting our bust span measurements. My bust span is 7. So 7 divided by 2 is 3.5. So I'll mark that on the waistline and on the bust line. Okay. I'm simply marking 3.5 from the center. Okay. So this is it. After marking, I'll connect the points. The points that I just marked on the waistline and on the bust line. Okay, I've also gone to the hemline to mark 3.5 so that I'll just connect a very straight line. Also, I've done that on the chest line. So I'm done. Now I'll insert my dart. I'll insert my dart intake. I'll be intaking 1.5 dart intake. That is 3/4 on each side. Okay, I'm marking 3/4 here and 3/4 here. So I'm simply trying to, okay, this is the back. We are drafting the back. So I'll be taking 1/2 and 1/2, right? 3/4 will be for the front. So the back dart intake is 1 inch, 1/2 on each side. So after that, I just link it to the bust line like this. Then from the hemline, I'm simply measuring 3 inches I have marked. Then I will link to the waistline, okay, the dart leg on the waistline. This is our dart beautifully marked out. So next, we'll simply finish up this dart by coming to the shoulder. We'll divide the shoulder into 2. Okay, that is, we're trying to get the midpoint of the shoulder. Then we mark. Now we will connect the midpoint of the shoulder to this dart line like this. Okay, so we are done with the back dart. Now we will insert our waist circumference divided by 4. For me, it is 7 1/4 because my waist circumference is 29. I will mark 7 1/4, then I will add back the 1 inch I took out for that. That will give me 8 1/4. So I have simply marked. Now I'll be connecting it to the bust line. But before then, I'll also mark out my hip circumference divided by 2, which is 10.5. 42 divided by 2, 10.5. And I'll take that 10.5 points straight to my waistline and my bust line like this. Can you see? I have marked out my back. Next, I want to shape this area. So I came up by 2 inches. I've marked and I'm linking it back like this, trying to create a nice curve there. Okay, this is in no particular order and it's not rigid. You can do it the way you want to do it. So our back pattern is ready. We will later separate this line, but before then, let's use this pattern to cut out the front. So we want to simply use this back to cut out the front. So here with me is another pattern paper, as you can see. What we will do now, we will leave out a space on the upper part of about 6 inches. That's what you see me marking out. Okay, so I've marked out that space. Then for the front part too, after marking, I'll insert a straight line there, okay, to remind us of where we are to start from. Okay, so this line that I just inserted will serve as our shoulder line for the front. Now also for the center front area, I'm leaving out a space of about 5 or 4 inches, since it's not a double-breasted jacket. Okay, I just left out 4. 3 will also do the job, but for convenience sake. Okay, so now I'll go ahead and trace out all the pattern and remove the pattern, so we have just the front. But before I trace out, I'll mask it down with my masking tape, so that by the time I'm tracing, the pattern is not shifting. So I'm done masking it to stay. So I'm now tracing using my tracing wheel. Okay, as I'm tracing now, if you do not know how to use a tracing wheel, this is what happens when you use a tracing wheel. After tracing, the lines you are tracing will be reflecting on the other side. Okay, then you simply redraw the lines. So that's what I'm doing. I'm just tracing the front. So after tracing the front, I'm now tracing the shoulder. For the shoulder, I will not trace exactly the way the back is. I will need to slope it down by half an inch, okay? So I will not trace straight. Even for the armhole, I need to deepen the armhole for the front, right? But first, let me trace out the back the way it is. Then I will now make adjustments by the time I want to transfer to fabric. Remember this line before we cut out. So I'm extending the line so that I'll redraw it before I recreate the shoulder for the front. Okay, so that's what I just did. Every other part is the same, so I'm now tracing other parts which will remain the same. So the only different thing we have here, the only difference between the back and the front is on the neckline, the shoulder, and then the armhole. Also, I'll be adjusting the darts, and that will be all for the difference between the back and the front. So every other part will be the same. So I'll follow this process and trace out everything. Then we open up the front so that we can make the necessary adjustments before we start drafting the lapel and the collar. So here is our front after removing the back. I'll simply use my marker to redraw the line so that you can see clearly. Okay, for now I know the lines are very fainty. I will redraw so as to re-emphasize the lines. So I'm simply redrawing. I'll quickly redraw, then we proceed. So we are at the neckline now. Now moving on to the shoulder, I'll now do my alteration. I'll just slope a little further by coming down by half an inch. Okay, mind you, we have sloped the back by 1 inch before, so the total for the front is now 1.5. Okay, so we are done with the shoulder. Now it's time for the armhole. Before I will adjust the armhole, let me redraw this original armhole line, if you can remember. Okay, so on this original armhole line, I'll just go up by 3 inches, which is the neck depth. Okay, simply using my neck depth, this works accurately. So after which I'll now, on that point, I'll mark 1/4 of an inch backwards, right? Just, I mean 3/4 of an inch. So I have marked 3/4, not 1/4, please. So I will now link to the armhole like this, and then I'll take it up to the shoulder, to the sloped part of the shoulder beautifully. Can you see? So here we are. We have our neckline, our armhole, and our shoulder. Now it's time to adjust the darts. So for the darts, for the back, I did half an inch on each side. For the front, I'm doing 1.5. Okay, so I'm adding extra half an inch to each of the darts. Can you see? So the total dart intake for the front is 1.5. Okay, so we are basically done. It's now time to create our collar and our lapel. So for the collar, for the lapel area, we'll first of all mark out our button line. I'm marking 1 inch towards the center front, 1 inch. Our button allowance. Okay, so this is our button allowance. I'll now connect the dots to give me a straight line for our button allowance. So I haven't gotten our button allowance. We'll now mark out our lapel. The size of our lapel depends on what you want. For me, I'm just making it 1 inch. So from this button allowance point, I'm marking 1 inch. You can make yours wider than this. You can go for 1.5 or even 2. But for the purpose of this jacket, I just want 1 inch extra. So I have marked. Next is to determine your break point. For this jacket, the break point is on the waistline. So from this waistline, I'll simply link to the lapel I marked earlier on the neckline. Can you see? So that is it. And then I'll also take it to the neck point. Okay, to create my lapel. Can you see this? So I have my lapel intact. So having beautifully created our lapel, we will simply notch this point here to indicate that from this point we'll be attaching our lapel to our collar. Okay, always remember to notch out very important points. Okay, so this is it. I've indicated with an arrow to show that this part needs to be notched while sewing. Now we'll be moving on to creating our collar. For the collar, we'll be using the back neckline measurement as a guide. So I'm simply measuring the back neckline to see what I'm having there. Okay, I don't know if you can see clearly. So I'm just measuring round. Can you see? So we have 4 inches. So we'll bring in the 4 inches here. From this neck point, I mark 4 inches upwards. Okay, I have marked, and I will extend this line in a slanted way. Mind you, the line is not straight. I'll just follow the shape of the line and go up to the 4 inches. So for our collar to relax nicely, I'll further go back by half an inch and link. Can you see? So this is where we'll be working with now. So having done that, the next thing we want to do is to use our angle 90 point. Can you see? This point is on your ruler. Just place it. Can you see it? Just place it accordingly like this. Okay. It brings us here. Follow the line. Follow the angle 90 line to come out like this. Mind you, you can just draw this. You can just draw this yourself without following the angle 90 on the ruler, but this is always very accurate. That's why I'm recommending it, the angle 90 shape on the ruler. So after placing it, I want to determine where the shape will stop. This will determine the size of your collar. For me, I just marked 4 inches because the size of my collar after folding, I want to see 2 inches. So I marked 4. After that, I'm now proceeding to mark out the shape of my lapel on the neckline area. This is in no particular order. You can be creative, do it your own way. Okay, for me, I just came out now. The difference between these 2 points is less than, I want it to be less than 1 inch. This was already 1 inch, so I made it 3/4. So I'm redrawing. Can you see? Okay, so the difference in that opening is now 3/4. I've linked nicely. So we have our collar and our lapel beautifully formed. So I'll simply label here collar, and then for the lapel, mind you, this particular line is no longer useful, so I'm striking it out. Okay, so here is our lapel and I'm labeling it lapel. So our collar and our lapel are also ready. That means our jacket is basically ready. It's now time for us to cut out the jacket. So I'm simply cutting now. If this is your first time of watching our videos in Classy by Mavi channel, please do well to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out in our next tutorial. Okay, here I'm notching the points that will be attaching the jacket, the collar to the jacket. Can you see? So I'm notching both on the collar and on the jacket so that we'll transfer this to fabric. We'll also be sewing this jacket in our next video. So if you don't subscribe, you miss out in that. Please do well to subscribe so that you will not miss out the sewing part of this tutorial. If you're an old subscriber, thank you for being with us. Thank you for watching our videos. We really appreciate you. So we are almost done. Let's cut out the shoulder here and then we'll proceed to separating the darts. Okay, can you see this? So this is how we are going to be joining it, and by the time we fold over, this is how our jacket's lapel and collar will look like. So here I'm separating the pattern by cutting out the darts. Okay, so I simply cut out the darts and then label my patterns before we proceed to transferring these patterns to fabric. So I'm basically done cutting out the front. Here is our side front and here is our center front. I've labeled accordingly, and for our back too, mind you, we did not separate the darts before, and now is the time to separate the back darts. Okay, we have our side back and our center back already. For the center back, there is something we need to do. We need to shape the waistline area. We call it back tightening. Back tightening has to be done so that your back will not be bulky. This is actually optional. You can decide not to do it, but for me, I usually like it on my lapels, okay, on my jackets generally, because I want that beautiful effect on my back. So after we have sewn this jacket, I'll show you the effects of this thing I'm just doing now. I'll show you the back of the jacket so that you understand how it affects the jacket generally. So I tighten the back by marking out half an inch from the center back, linking it to the hem and to the neckline. Okay, so having done that, I'm here separating the darts for the back. And here our back and front patterns are ready. Okay, the next thing for us to do is to transfer these patterns to fabric. Here we are done transferring the patterns to fabric. As you can see, here is our center back. Okay, we cut out two of it. I added half an inch all around. Then for the sides, I added half an inch all around, but for the side seam allowance, I added 1 inch. The side seam allowance for the back, I added 1 inch. Can you see? 1 inch. However, every other part is half an inch except for the side seam. Okay. Then for the front too, it was the same thing. Every other part I added half an inch except for the side seam. So I've also fused stay into it, as you can see. Fusible interfacing stay into the fabric. Can you see this? So I fused it into all of them, all the pattern pieces, and I'll be sewing just like that. Can you see? So I cut them out in twos. For the back, both center back and side back was cut out in twos. Now we have our front, center front and side front. It follows the same pattern, half an inch for every other part except for the side front because of the side seam allowance. So for the side seam allowance, I added 1 inch. For the hem, I also added 1 inch. Okay, I added 1 inch for the hem of both the back and the front. so that by the time I finish with my lining, it will not be too short. Here is our collar. Our collar was cut out on fold at this point. And then for every other part, I added half an inch. This is how we'll be attaching the collar to the dress, following the notch points. Okay, so I'll be transferring these notched points to the fabric accordingly with my scissors. Okay, I'll just insert a notch on that point using my scissors. Okay, before I start sewing, so that I will know the exact point I'm joining the collar to the neckline. Okay, so here I'm simply marking. I'm marking the notched point so that I can remove the pattern paper. Even when I remove the pattern paper, I will still know where to insert my notch using my scissors. So I'm doing the same thing on the body of the jacket. Get ready to sew this jacket with me. Thank you for watching this video. Just make sure to subscribe to Classy by Mavi channel. Turn on your notification bell so that you don't miss out the sewing part of this tutorial. Bye for now.